Well, it's Monday. I'm going to change the GPS on the little 5-inch. I got another M10Q 5883. This GPS works great, but it's just too big. It tends to move over and start hitting the props. Just not what I want. So I'm going to take it off and put a M10Q 5883 I got in its place that actually fits inside that TPU mount. Okay, there's the physical part done. The new GPS in the TPU mount. It's a copy of the one that was originally placed in here. This is the third one. The wires are twisted, run up here to be soldered up, and the wires for the old GPS are here to be desoldered when all of that starts. I think I'm going to have to take the camera out, some of this out, and fold these wires backwards to get to everything that needs to be soldered. But soldering's the next step. Alright, this M10-L4-3100 GPS compass, has a barometer on it, module was a CAN bus module that I put on the platform back when I was trying to figure out M10 GPSs. So on the platform there was only 4 wires connected. These to this connector right here. So I picked up ground and voltage over here, but I had to pick up the CAN bus right over here. So there's 2. See if I can get in there any closer. There's 2 wires I have to unsolder right here. I could cut them off because I'm not going to need them on the other GPS, but I'm going to have to get that yellow one there, and there's a blue one right behind it. I think I can take the soldering iron in from right where I'm pointing right now and get those 2 wires off of there. I can kind of leave the solder behind till later when I hook up something to it again, but I don't know when I'll use the CAN bus on this again. I try not to go back into electronics very much because stuff like this solder sucker has a tendency to drop pieces of solder out. Yeah, of course it won't do it when I'm trying to demonstrate it. Yeah, that's the way it goes. Because the solder sometimes gets wrapped around that clean out piece of metal there, plunger, and just kind of turns into like a tin foil type of solder. Let's see if I can get the bottom off of it, and we'll clean it out a little bit here. Oops, you saw some of it jump out as I did that. You can see some of the little pieces of solder down inside that. They can come out the hole and get lodged on the circuit board. And see here on this piece of paper some of the solder I cleaned out of the solder sucker. And like I say, it gets like this where it's just really thin solder, little bits and pieces you can barely see, and that can come out and just set on the circuit board if you don't watch it and short things out. And this is the spring that's inside that solder sucker. You can see it's just deposited all over with little bits and pieces of solder. So that's one of the main reasons I don't like going back into things. You can just short things out. You can kind of see on my finger there a little glistening of little bitty pieces of solder. And then again, while you're using the solder sucker, when you push the plunger down to get it ready to suck, if you push it just a little further, you can see that clean out pin comes out and cleans this up. But it can also just spit out. And also when you push the button on it for it to suck solder, it's a little bit of a violent reaction, and little pieces of solder can actually come out the end on you. So I'm not going to use the solder sucker to detach these two wires. I probably will on the voltage and ground on the other side, but not these, the clock and data for the CAN bus. Just like I say, I hate going back into things, soldering things on and off. I like to just get it done one time and it stay forever. Yeah, repairs don't go that way, do they? And if you keep moving, this will be the third time a GPS has been soldered to this thing. If you keep doing stuff like that, you're certainly not going to get around that problem. So again, I'm going to try to go in at this angle and just disconnect those two clock and data wires. No, I guess it's CAN bus high and CAN bus low is what I'm actually disconnecting there. But I'm just really wanting to try to keep as much superfluous solder, especially the parts that I can't see because the particles are so small, off that circuit board. So there you go, right there. Let's see if I can point at it with a solder helper tool. Right there's where I just went in, grabbed the yellow wire, pulled on it a little bit, and touched the hot soldering iron right there. Pulled that off, but I'm going to leave that solder on it right there. It won't hurt where it is, and that way I don't get any more on it. Now I've got to go in and do the same thing with the blue wire right there. The copper looking stuff you see right in this area between those two is just where cleaning off some flux and stuff. I scraped the paint off the top of this circuit board. That's probably a ground, so you don't want to solder anything to it or get solder over to it, because that whole surface, it might even be 5 volts there. But that's why that copper looking area is there. I just scraped off the paint when I was getting flux out of there. So let's go do the same thing with that blue wire right there. So there you go. The blue wire is disconnected, and again you can see that copper being exposed where I scratched the top with a solder tool, removing some flux. While I was in there right now, I went over and I pulled the ground and voltage 2 wires off right here. I'm going to leave that solder on there and use it to solder the new GPS up. I'm going to go straight across these 6 lines right here. The transmit and receive on a UART, 4V5 voltage, so I can have my GPS locking up from USB connection, ground, and then data and clock right there. The other one was on a ground up here, and again I'm just going to leave that excess solder on there. Not going to use a solder sucker on any of this because I don't want superfluous solder left behind. Yikes. Hope I didn't just break that wire. No, it's still there. Don't want to move it around much. Just trying to get it out of the way. So now my old cable for CAN bus, which is just 4 signals, is removed from the flight controller. I can put it back here on the CAN bus compass slash GPS slash barometer module and set that aside for future use someplace. I found when I switched from a UART based compass, the other 5883 M10Q 5883 that was on here, to the CAN bus, it didn't help anything. So it wasn't anything with the firmware or anything like that with the UART being used instead of the CAN bus. I've pretty much got the M10 GPSs figured out that they just have a larger number of constellations they're trying to lock up, so therefore it's going to take more time. I was getting confused with the M10's time to lock up satellites as being a hardware slash software problem, when it's in fact just there's multiple constellations, therefore there's a larger almanac to download for the sats, and it's just going to take more time. We'll talk about that a little bit more as I finish up this project though. So here's my flight controller. I printed out a layout of it, and again I'm going to use TX2 RX2 UART2 transmit and receive here for this GPS module right here. I'm going to use this 4v5 ground and data and clock. This transmit has to go to receive on the GPS. This receive has to go to transmit on the GPS for the UART to work correctly. Just to supply voltage ground, and then data goes to data and clock goes to clock. So I've got another piece of paper here that I've got the colors of my wires coming out of that GPS, showing that blue would be the transmit, green, yellow would be receive. So receive going to transmit there. I'll put my yellow wire here. My blue is transmit. That'll go to this receive right here. And of course, my red is 5 volts. My black is ground. So it'll be red, black. And then data will be the white. And clock is the green. So it'll be white, green. That's the way I'm going to solder them across those pads. Right here on the flight controller. Well, those have been soldered to twice before, and they're a little bit goobered up with some flux left behind, and that one's got an excess of solder on it. But I'm just going to build up solder on these two. Leave these two the way they are. Looks like that one might need just a touch of solder built up on it. This one may be fine the way it is. Then I'm just going to touch the soldering iron and the bare wire to it, and hopefully that will get all that going. Have to look at that closer. There may be a little bit of stranded wire hanging out right there that could come out and touch something. I think I'll get a toothbrush and clean that up a little bit more with some circuit board cleaner. Yep, a little shot of this in that area, and the application of a toothbrush has got that whole area a little more viewable. Just cleaned it up so I can start. So let's do those 6 solder connections. Alright, there's the 6 wires soldered. The green one over here kind of slipped to the right on me as I touched it to the solder, but I pulled the soldering iron away real quick and it's got a good physical connection, so I'm going to leave that there. I did go back and put some extra solder on the ground and ended up putting too much. That transmit wire might could use just a little bit more solder. I'll pull on it with these pliers and see if it's got a really good physical connection. Yeah, it doesn't want to come off of there. Doesn't want to pull off easily. Can pull on it pretty hard, so I'm going to leave that as it is. So there's the 6 wires soldered back up for the keep looking at that transmit, thinking I just need to hit it with a little solder. I think I probably will. And then this wire here is a connector for the connector that comes back and plugs into the walk snail here for the video to go up to the controller. So there's everything that needed to be changed on the wiring to do that compass GPS module back to what it was. I'm going to talk about this twisting of these wires here. I twisted them together so that it sort of becomes one wire and I don't have little individual wires sticking out to get caught in sticks and twigs and stuff while it's flying, landing and stuff like that. But let's talk over here on the computer a little bit about twisting wires like that. Okay, this is a very rough diagram that I found on the internet that shows kind of twisted cables. And the reason we would twist cables is to try to make them noise immune. And what you would have to do there, you would have to figure out the frequency of the noise that you want to be immune from. And one twist starts right here and ends right here. Second one starts right here and ends right here. Because what's going on there, there's actually 2 twists, but there would be a half wavelength out. In other words, you would figure out what frequency you're trying to reject, and you would twist your wire so that that frequency length would be physically equal to the distance between here and here, and of course here. That way, as that frequency hits these 2 sections and is induced into the wiring, because this section and this section and this section and this section are 180 degrees out, it would cancel. So I'm just twisting those wires together so that they sort of become one wire, and I don't have 6 separate wires hanging out to be caught on something and broken. And anybody tells you they can just twist wires together and to make them noise immune is blowing smoke up your dress. Because to truly make it noise immune, you would have to know what frequency of noise you're trying to reject, and you would have to make the twists so that the frequency length of that frequency would be from here to here, and you would have 2 twists in there to reject the noise. Anything other than that, and it's not going to be noise reducing. So I'll just tell you up front, I'm just twisting the wires together so they basically become one wire for wire management. Just a little tidbit there. And there we go. We're just going to power it up real quick before we close it up. And looks like I've got a green light there, so therefore I think my power and ground is at least in the right place, and we'll find out about the rest of it in a minute here. So now I'm just going to put the top plate on it. Okay, it's buttoned back up and ready for a battery and ready to fly. Okay, now we have one more little step, because right now we show no GPS attached. So we'll have to go to our Maytech page, Ardu Pilot Mapping, go down and find transmit receive to UART2, and that's equal to serial 3 on Ardu. And we'll come over here and full parameters, serial 3, and that's set to GPS right now. Yikes. That should be working. Serial 3, 5, GPS, that's right. Don't think this actually matters. So let's look at GPS underscore type 9 drone. Oops, I hate that flying help there when I'm trying to do videos. Drone can is no longer true, so we can put this to a 1, or we can go 2. I'm going to do 1 first just for kicks and grins. Write out those parameters. We're going to power down the platform. I'm going to repower the platform. And with the platform powered back up and connected to it, we see now we have a GPS 3D fix. This is in the basement, although I only have 5 sats. That's pretty good for in the basement for an M10. So we're ready to start flying this platform again with that big old clunky GPS that likes to hit the props off of it. Switching it to CAN bus didn't work. After working with the M10s in the field on 3 or 4 flights, it just became obvious that the problem I thought was there doesn't really exist. The problem that is there is it just takes a while for that M10 GPSs to connect up to satellites, because it's looking at so many constellations and has such a large almanac to download. So I got off track weeks back. Let's see what we got here. U-blocks, configuration saved. Not really telling me what baud rate it's communicating at. This, well, I can go back at another time and see if it'll pick up that. RC not found. Oh, I don't have my transmitter powered up. And I'll have to do a compass calibration on this creature too before I fly it. But other than that, it's ready to fly again. I'm going to pick back up at notch filtering with this platform and with the 7-inch, because of something that I've learned in the interim, which I'll be doing another video. My next video will be on advanced tuning. But for now, the switch over to back to an M10-5883 GPS that fits in the TPU on the little 5-inch is complete. Everything is working again. I have to do a compass calibration. That'll also be a little bit talked about in the next video too, because that'll be, we're going to start back over. I'm going to switch the notch filters over from FFT to ESC telemetry, but I'll get into all that in the video for tomorrow or whenever I get to it. It will be the next video, so you'll know what I'm talking about then. I don't want to get too confused right now. So that completes this. I'm very pleased with it, locking up 5 satellites really quick in the basement now. Of course, the trees along the outside, 4 of them were cut, and there's no leaves on them, so could make this all the difference. But outdoors, I'm sure, if you let the platform sit long enough and collect the almanac data, that it will all be better for you. All right, that's all for now. Thank you.